Shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh, Bashem Al-Shai, Bashem Rakakwadah, Shalom to the 144,000 and rest of the elect out there. Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, Hermeneutics. Is Revelation 18 referring to the downfall of America? So if you don't know what the term or the word hermeneutics, the meaning of the word hermeneutics, well, here it is. Hermeneutics.
Hermeneutics.
The branch of knowledge that deals with interpretation, especially of the Bible or literary texts. Hermeneutics, the branch of knowledge that deals with interpretation, especially of the Bible or literary work. So if you go to my page and go to the search engine of my page, YouTube page, and type in hermeneutics, you'll get a handful of videos with the title. Part of the title is hermeneutics. And we here at GMS, we go into a lot of prophetic breakdown. And you want to get these interpretations of the prophetic parts of the Bible or the scriptures. You got to come to the GMS. That's you scholars, you Christians, all of you. You scholars don't understand you can't break things down. You can't interpret a lot of these books. Like Revelation, you lost. Totally lost. Most of the books, prophetic books, you're clueless on. So anyway, is Revelation 18 referring to the downfall of America? It says, short answer, most biblical scholars do not believe Revelation 18 is specifically about the fall of America, though some modern interpreters do apply it to America as a contemporary analogy. Here's how the issue breaks down. What Revelation 18 is about in context. Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon the Great, portrayed as immensely wealthy. Let me do this. What country is the richest country? What is the richest country on the planet Earth? Okay, the richest country depends on the metric, but by GDP, gross domestic product, per capita, per each individual, tiny nations like Singapore, Luxembourg, Macau, and Ireland often top lists of wow. So Luxembourg is super rich per capita. So there's more rich people. It's a higher standard of living. Singapore, Ireland. I didn't know that. While the United States leads in total wealth and GDP. Nominal Luxembourg frequently ranks number one by GDP per capita when considered wealth centers in small nations with high financial output or natural resources, alongside Ireland, Qatar, and Switzerland. And I believe Switzerland is backed by gold. Let me do this. is backed by gold. No, the Swiss franc is no longer officially backed by gold as Switzerland moved away from the gold standard. What year was that? But the Swiss National Bank still holds significant gold reserves, so it is somewhat backed by gold. All right. Let me do this here. How much is $100 worth in Switzerland? Okay, US dollar. Okay, you only get $80. So their dollar is stronger. Okay, that's all I wanted. So let me come back to this here. Okay, what Revelation 18 is about. In context, Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon the Great, portrayed as immensely wealthy. Now, it said in the Google, it said that per capita, meaning per head. America is the richest, but it's based on maybe 10% of the people of the United States, the citizens or whatever, the U.S. citizens, Americans, whatever you want to call them, that they possess a lot of the wealth. So it's not per capita. Like Singapore. Singapore is per capita, so they're doing very well. The average citizen of Singapore is most likely doing better than the average person in America. You know, you got the middle class, which is dwindling down to nothing. You got a vast lower class, lower middle class, working class, and then you got the super rich. Nero worked for the super rich. He does the bidding for the super, and they give him crumbs, which is, a couple billion here and there is crumbs. It says, so it's the. Let me read this again. It says, what Revelation 18 is in context. Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon the Great. So the question is, where is Babylon the Great? What is Babylon the Great? Portrayed as immensely wealthy. Immensely wealthy. We just showed you that. As far as they mentioned the GDP. Dominant, like Nero keeps bragging about, we're going to get money and prices are going to go down. It's going to trickle down. We're going to send out $2,000 checks. Now, he said it was going to be sometimes in the middle of 2026. They interviewed him the other day, and he said, "Oh, it'll be some." He avoided it. Did I say that? And he said, "When are you going to pass out these checks?" Because you've been talking about them for about the past 6 months or so. So he said, sometimes at the end of 2026. Okay, we'll see. That's a long time, bro. That's 12 months, 11 and change. It says, don't count on it. Don't hold your breath. Okay, dominant in global trade. Let me ask this question. What country dominates in global trade? China. Well, China, yep. Everything that you get, the computers, cell phone, everything that you get, car parts, everything that you get that's not edible, it most likely came from China. If China called for a embargo, and you look up the word embargo, don't let me do it. I did it the other day. Embargo in a nutshell means a country that exports products to another country, if there's if they don't agree, they have meetings, they don't agree, whatever. One country's leader is mad at the other country's leader. So what they do is, it's also called sanctions, but embargo, sanction is pretty much the same thing. So if China issued an embargo against the United States, America would be dead. America would be dead. Dead. They don't have to shoot one missile. They can economically destroy this place on the economic level. It says China dominates global trade as the world's largest exporter of goods. And who made them that way? Companies from the U.S. Are you going to the history of the Boxers' Revolution? Matter of fact, let me go into that. So I'm going into a lot of, let me see here. Okay, let me open up another, I'm opening tabs here and there. What is the Boxers' Revolution all about? Boxer Revolution. I said boxers. Boxer Revolution. The Boxer Revolution or rebellion was a violent anti-foreign, anti-imperialist uprising in China, 1899 to 1901, led by the secret society, righteous and harmonious fists. The sacred society, righteous and harmonious fists known as Boxers, for their martial arts, who sought to expel Western influence and Chinese Christians, all them pesky Christians. It said Boxers who for their martial arts, who sought to expel Western influence and Chinese Christians, supported by elements of the Queen Court or whatever, Queen Court. They besieged foreign legislation. I'm sorry, legation. I'm sorry, in Beijing, but were crushed by an 8-nation alliance, resulting in punitive treaties that weakened the dynasty and fueled further revolutionary sentiment, leading to the 1911 revolution. Okay, give me a second here. Besieged foreign legations in Beijing, but were crushed by an 8-nation alliance. Let's see, I just put it in here like that. The Boxer Rebellion is a violent, anti-foreign, anti-colonial uprising in China. Colonial means slavery, right? What Nero just did with Venezuela, he made Venezuela a colony by the Boxers, righteous and harmonious fists, who practice martial arts and blame foreign influence for China's economic woes and humiliation, targeting missionaries, which are Christians, Christians and foreigners. Christians they bring death. They bring death and destruction and lies. Leading the 8-nation alliance. Okay, good. There was an alliance to come against the Boxers in the Boxers' Revolution. Japan, Russia, Britain, France, U.S., Germany, Italy, Austria, and Hungary. So you might as well say, outside of Russia and Japan, that those are members of NATO and the EU nations. So who is really behind it? Now, what they did was Japan, they said it was going to bomb the hell out of Japan if they don't modernize. And that was based upon a movie starring Tom Cruise. What was the name of the movie? The Last Samurai. He was the last samurai. So the year, I got to go into the year. Okay, this was during the time, when did that take place? That was 1917. So Russia was a monarchy at that time. So they were working with Britain, France, USA, Germany to intervene militarily, relieve the siege of Beijing, and impose harsh penalties through the Boxer Protocol. So these are the main nations that came and took. So they have a lot of anger for the U.S. And when they see this motherfucker go down, they're going to cry. They're going to be happy that it's going down. But then again, it's going to be bittersweet because they ain't making no more money. Remember, let me do this. What made China financially great? China's financial greatness stemmed from its reform and opening up policies starting in 1979. A couple years before that, Nixon, I believe it was 72, he sat down with the premier Mao Zedong, and that was to open China up to these American companies because of cheap labor. 1979, shifting to market reform, massive infrastructure, investments. Who made the investments? Europeans, small hats, the super rich, leveraging a huge low-cost labor force. They took all those American companies and European companies, the technology and everything, and they shipped it all to China because they didn't have to pay nothing. What you got to understand is, Henry Ford, I believe he was a Jake. He set up what was called the $5 day. A $5 day would be considered today. Okay, this 5,000, 2,005. It would be about about $1,200 to $1,300 a day, and that was an 8-hour day. So if you work for Ford on the assembly line, you'll bring home pay, and it was tax free. There were no taxes, no Social Security. This was in the 20s, right? Before 32, 33. You bring home pay. Can you imagine bringing home $1,250 or $1,300 a day? What is 13? Let's round it off to 1,300. 13,000 is 10 days. What is it? 13,000. I'm trying to get the math right. Okay, in a week, you got I'm saying 5 days out of the week. You work five. Let's say you work 5 days out of the week. That's 13,000. Half of 13,000 is 6.5, almost 7,000. Can you imagine bringing home clear $7,000 a day? That's why women were able to stay home, because the man truly, as the old saying goes, bring home the bacon. See, that thing where you had women working, that caused a lot of adultery. Everything is caving in on itself. We see the downfall of this goddamn place. Please forgive me for giving you a lot of information here. But anyway, people in America are feeling it, and people around. If America has a cold, everybody else gets a what? A flu. So major thing that happens in America, it affects the whole planet. So in a nutshell, I'm sorry, let me see, low cost labor, that's the main thing. That's the main reason why, like Ford, they said, let's bring the Ford product, for example, over to China. We don't got to give them $1,300 a day. We can give them $10 a day. That's called overhead. Low cost labor force for exports, and they force them into that. They were working in the rice fields. They were farmers, so they needed workers. So they were taking the people. If you said I don't want to work in this industry, I'm a farmer, they killed you. Attracting foreign direct investments with incentives, integrating into the global trade system and strategic government control of currency and interest rates. I don't got to read no more. Let me read some more. Fostering unprecedented growth and lifting millions out of poverty. So you had a lot of the beginnings of Chinese billionaires are poor. They grew up poor. So thanks to 1979 and these investors coming in for cheap labor. Do you know how many millionaires? You can look that up too. How many millionaires are in China? So it's backfiring on them. What they did was they took their kids, they sent them to America, the best schools, Harvard, Yale, Cambridge. What's the other one? Oxford, Cambridge, the best, Princeton, the best colleges to become doctors, lawyers, engineers, and so forth. And what they did was they came back to China and built back China. You go to certain parts in China, you got train stations that look like better than like a modern airport. Anyway, so guess what? Like I said, China is in a position, the government is in a position to say we ain't gonna send shit to America and America will die. It would just become a gigantic ghost town. So they went from poverty to riches, and guess what? American people are going from middle class lifestyle, doing very well, to poverty because they don't understand the money system. Well, everything's going up. You don't understand the money system. The fact that you said everything is going up, you do not understand how money works. This combination, I went to the Silver guy, right? Yeah, I haven't gone there in years. They had moved to a bigger location. And we always talk. We always talk about, he says one thing, I say another. He says it's going to be this, it's not going to go that high. I said, yes, it is. So there was two of them in the back, the Jake man and Jake woman. And they said, one guy said, yeah, don't be surprised if it goes to 100 in the next year. I said, man, it'll go up to 100 in the next month or so. And I looked, and let me do this. Let me show you something. Look at that. And it keeps going up. Earlier, I believe it was 80. It was 88. It'll hit 90, most likely. There it goes. In real time, baby. 88. That's $90. I'll be surprised if it doesn't, if by the end, mid-February, if it doesn't go up to $100, I'll be surprised. I'll be shocked. I told you all about the silver years ago. When I was telling you all about it, it was dirt cheap. It's still dirt cheap because it's gonna. I told the guy, I said, don't be surprised if it goes up to $500. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let me come on back. You're getting a history class. So what was the driving force behind the so many American companies and European companies closing shop and moving to China because of a what? Low cost labor force. They ain't have to pay them. They pay them next to shit. Fostering unprecedented growth and lifting millions out of poverty. This combination of state-led strategy and market liberalization fueled rapid productivity gains and manufacturing dominance, making it the world's second largest economy. Boy, oh boy, can China save itself? All right, let's look and see what's going on here. I'm not going to do all this, go through all this. Let me come back over here. Okay, let me see. Let me come back over here. Okay, let me come over here. Okay, what country dominates in global trade? China's number one. Okay, here we go. China dominates global trade as the world's largest exporter of goods, having been the leading exporter since 2009. While the United States is the second largest trading, it used to be number one nation overall, exports plus imports, and a major player, particularly in services, with both countries serving as top partners for many nations globally. So you want to get into something, get into the service sector, learn the computers, the AI, stuff like that. China's rise is due to its manufacturing strength. Who taught them to manufacture? Who gave them the A's to the Z's of manufacturing and so forth? The Europeans, American businessmen and European businessmen. Why? For cheap labor. Its manufacturing strength, supplying electronics and machinery, electronics and machinery, while the U.S. remains crucial for tech and services. So you want to make money, you get into the tech industry. You learn tech. With Germany also a major trade powerhouse. So as of 2009, prior to 2009, the powerhouse was the United States. When you go back to the 1900s, the 20s, the 30s, you had the Depression and all that. Then you had a boom. 44 going to 45, the end of World War II, the world reserve currency was recognized by America. They're the new world reserve currency. They're the top guys. But then China slowly started taking it, starting with 1972, the trip that Nixon made to China to sit down with the prime minister or the premier of China, which was Mao Zedong. What were they talking about? They were talking about opening up the world. Nixon was a front man, opening up the world to have these companies come in for the super rich, right? And these developers. They said we need a nation that we can utilize cheap labor. And they killed a lot of people too, and that they changed everything. That's called a Great Leap Forward. Let me show you what the Great Leap Forward is all about. Let me get back into it. The Great Leap Forward, meaning the Great Leap Forward 1958 to 62 was a massive campaign by Chinese Communist Party led by Mao Zedong to rapidly transform China from an agrarian economy into a modern industrialized communist state through mass collectivization and industrialization. So the U.S. was been talking to him, and this was post World War II. I mean, you can go with this all day. So they started, but the main thing that opened up China to the U.S., to these companies, to the super rich, was when Nixon sat down with China, and who was he the front man for? The super elite. Nero's nothing but he's a front guy. That's all he is. But anyway, so we're finding out that at one time America was a great power, but China is the great power economically. Okay, so now let's come on back over here to. Okay, so let's go. What Revelation 18 is about. In context, Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon the Great, portrayed as immensely wealthy. We proved that, right? Dominant in global trade. Yeah, they number 2. They used to be number 1. Basically, we're importers, right? Morally corrupt. Nero's not. He's not locking up happy people. He's not locking up adulterers. All right. He's not locking up. He hasn't passed any laws locking up people that changed their plumbing. What else? You know, he doesn't have armies going in there. Oh, you two are having sex with each other and y'all not married, so we're gonna lock y'all up. Oh, y'all are swingers. He ain't going after the swingers. He hasn't said nothing about, you know, the grown men with the underage women on video dealing with him. The Epstein thing. He's not calling for the Epstein thing. He said bring it out. Then they change it. Then they have to go back to the court and set up a new date to bring out the Epstein files. Because why? Because he's involved in that. There's several pictures of him with this guy, Epstein. So maybe that's part of the wars too. You want to cover up something? Start a big major war. So this is a corrupt. Everybody knows this nigga's corrupt, morally corrupt, closely tied to political power, responsible for oppression and bloodshed. Nahum 3, Proverbs 29 and 2. Isaiah 14 and 2. Revelation 2:20, was it 25, 26, and 27? 26. So it's the description of Babylon the Great is, you know, what are you going to think about? It's this place. The chapter is highly symbolic part of a apocalyptic literature. Give me a second. Main interpretive view, historical preterist view, most common academically. Babylon refers to Rome in the 1st century. This is Rome all over again. They don't understand this is the second Rome. Yeah, when they built Rome, when they built DC, it was on the plot of land formerly called Rome, Maryland. It was owned by a man by the name of Francis. I think his name was Francis Priest. So when they built that land, they no longer call that Rome, Maryland. But guess what? They built DC on a place called Rome, right? They built it on Capitol Hill. Go back to Rome, you have a place called Capitoline Hill. Control global commerce. Persecuted Christians, the real Christians, not the fake ones. The real Christians are Israelites that believe in the Messiah. So the Jakes that were brought over here to serve slavery, and Gad and the so-called Latin American and Indian tribes, they would be classified as Christians because they're Israelites. Was called Babylon as a code name. Now, in 1 Peter 5:13, Peter greets the church in Babylon, meaning you had Israelites living in Iraq at that time. Revelation would then be addressing the downfall of an oppressive empire. This is an oppressive empire. The fact that he sent military men down to Venezuela and took it and said, "Oh, that's our oil in the first place," and now you got these super rich making money off of that oil right now, and then none of them is saying that was theft. It's clearly theft, man. That was clearly an invasion of another country. Where was the UN at? And the whole world sees this. So now Russia can say, you know what, we can totally completely destroy Ukraine, and they can't say nothing. China can now go into Taiwan, and they can make up a lie. Well, the president of Taiwan, he came to China and had sex with an underage girl, so we're going to arrest him, and then we're going to take the country. You know, if you're living in a glass house, you don't throw any stones. So this guy, Nero's doing all this stuff, and the whole world sees it, and the whole world's acting like they don't see it. That's why ultimately missiles are going to be dropped on this place. I can close the video right now. I can close it right now. The description of Babylon the Great, they said it's, let me do this. So you got guys who say, yeah, America, Revelation 18, Babylon is America, but they don't know how to explain it. I gave you a lot of examples. What Revelation 18 is about in context. Babylon the Great portrayed as immensely wealthy. They always brag, we're the wealthiest country on the planet Earth. Dominant in global trade. They are, but they're importers now. They were once exporters. Morally corrupt. I gave you examples of that. Closely tied to political power. Responsible for oppression and bloodshed. So you got scholars that say Babylon refers to Rome in the 1st century Rome. Controlled global commerce, persecuted Christians or Israelites, was called Babylon as a code name. Be addressed, Revelation would then be addressing the downfall of an oppressive empire, not a modern nation. This is an empire, man. The Monroe Act, the Monroe Doctrine made it an empire. They just said, we're going to take the West. We're going to go from the East, and we're going to take over the whole West. We're going to build a railroad to connect the East to the West. And any European nation want to come in, we're going to fight them. That's why they had they had 3 wars. They said this is the dominant scholarly view. And we don't follow the scholars. A symbolic idealist view. Babylon represents any corrupt world system built on economic exploitation. That's why the so-called prices are going up. They're really not. Political power, moral. They'll bring out wars. Well, according to this, and we're going to pass a law. And I'm talking about Nero. He's a master at moving the goalposts. moral decadence. The word decadence means to decay. You got these people, these super rich people. A lot of them drop dead on drugs. They all fucked up. The kids hate them. Here they are, multi-billionaires, and their kids hate them. How many cases you hear of rich kids killing their parents? Under this view, Revelation 18 is not about one country. No, it is about one country, one landmass, but a recurring pattern throughout history. No, that's bullshit. America could fit the pattern, but is not uniquely identified. Right, it doesn't say America. The Bible doesn't say America. Futurist view. We happen to be futurists, right? Babylon represents a future global economic and political system that will collapse before the Messiah return, when the Messiah comes. Some futurists, which we are futurists, think this could involve a coalition of nations, Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, a major economic center. The Bible does not name America. Of course it doesn't make it, because they would outlaw the Bible, the scriptures. But some speculate due to its global influence. I didn't put GMS take. Why some people say it's America. Those who identify Revelation 18 with America often point to global economic dominance, luxury consumption among the super rich, cultural influence, military power. For since the founding of the Constitution, the signing of the Constitution, you had what was called a Department of Defense. Now you have a Department of War. Department of Defense is you're taking a defensive stance. Department of War is a proactive stance. You looking for trouble. However, these traits have applied to Rome. Well, this is Rome all over again. Byzantium, British Empire, other superpowers. Yeah, but it speaks about, it's not talking about different kingdoms. It's talking about this one kingdom. John saw one kingdom being destroyed. Matter of fact, he saw it backwards. He saw the destruction. He saw the desert. He saw when the smoke cleared and the fire subsided, stopped or whatever. And he saw a desert, and he saw desert creatures. So they went backwards. So this is how it all began. He went into the corruption and all that. So we're in the generation that this place is going to be utterly destroyed. The text itself never names or clearly describes a modern nation state. Key problem with America only interpretation, Revelation. At least they're saying it's America's in the list. Revelation was written to first century Christians under Roman rule. Well, it's a prophecy. What John saw 2,000 years ago is taking place right now. The message had to be meaningful to them. Predicting a specific nation 2,000 years later, well, that's exactly what John did. With no explicit markers, is unlikely by standard interpretation methods. Because this truth was not given to Esau. And a lot of them believe it, but they ain't going to say nothing. They ain't going to say nothing. So the balanced conclusion, Revelation 18 is not explicitly about America. It can be applied, but it's in there. When you mention when you talk about Revelation 18, you got to mention America. It says it can be applied as a warning or any powerful, wealthy, unjust society. This is a powerful, wealthy, unjust society. America may be an example, but not the fulfillment. No, it is the fulfillment. The chapter's main message is theological, not geopolitical. Systems built on injustice, arrogance, and exploitation. What does that describe? will ultimately fall under the Most High. So then it's going to fall. Okay, let me see something. You already know what I'm going to ask. The great Muslim Israelites' position is much more specific and absolute than mainstream Christian interpretation. Short answer, GMS view, yes. GMS teaches that Revelation 18 is explicitly and primarily about the destruction of modern day America. Below is a clear, accurate summary of how GMS understands Revelation 18 using their own interpretive framework called GMS Interpretation of Revelation 18. Babylon the Great equals America. GMS identifies Babylon the Great as the United States of America, the final and greatest manifestation of Esau, Edom's empire, the spiritual successor to ancient Rome. They teach that America is the most wicked nation in history, the economic, military, and cultural center of the modern world, which it is, the final oppressor of the Israelites, whom GMS identified as so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. While GMS says Revelation 18 fits America specifically, GMS points to several features in the chapter. Global trade dominance. The merchants of the earth are wax rich, and we use the example of China. We went into the Boxers' Revolution. We went into the meeting that Nixon had with Mao Zedong. But they had communication back in the late 50s, early 60s. So they finally had that sit down. Nixon finally had that sit down and said, we're going to ship everything to y'all, and you're going to be paid handsomely. We're talking about Mao Zedong, which he was a communist. And what happened was they took the farmers and they made them into working in factories and learning skills. But now they're what? Most of them millionaires. I read it where it says that they went from poverty to riches. Most of the stories of these super rich Chinese people, these different what is it, Temu, and what's the other ones? You got Temu, you got this other one, damn, I forget the company, but shit, I purchased shit from Temu, however you say it. I got like a couple of pairs of kicks from them, a couple of pairs of them things. I got them 3 years ago, and they still good. You know? Anyway, I got a MP3 player about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and for about $10. That motherfucker still works. Anyway, it says America's GMS Revelation and GMS referred to the global trade dominance. The merchants of the earth are wax rich through the abundance of her delicacies. That's America. America is seen as the hub of global commerce. Remember the World Trade Center? Now it's the One World Trade Center, I believe it's called. The dollar, imports, exports, and consumer culture are central to GMS's argument. Luxury and access. She lived deliciously. GMS emphasized America's culture of excess, pleasure, and Materialism. That's how you know you made it, right? You know you made it in this society when you have excess, pleasure, and materialism. You can get any woman you want if you're a multi-billionaire. You can get any woman out there. Every woman out there got a price. You want to get J-Lo? You're a multi-billionaire. You make the connection. She gonna hop on the plane and she gonna see you in Dubai. You know? Or that happened with this Arab guy that got with what's her name? Janet Jackson. She an international hoe. She made a deal to get with this Arab guy, and the what was that called? The prenup was, you got to be with me for 5 years, and if you do that, I think it was 50 million, something like that, 5 million, something like that, 5 billion. I forget the exact amount of money, but it was a large sum of money. So basically, it was a 5 year, he was a trick for 5 years. So she was a hoe. She a prostitute. Janet Jackson is a prostitute. And she even had a son by this man. 5 years, 3 months later, all of a sudden she said, I no longer love you. I just don't feel you no more. Yeah, because you timed it. You didn't say it in the fourth year. Then you got that money. So this guy was doing whatever the fuck he wanted to do to you because he had a fantasy about getting with this famous singer. So guess what? Who's the biggest hoe on the planet Earth? Janet Jackson is one of them. That was a look, in the ancient world, when you got a hoe, you paid her, she would be with you for a month. She'd give you sex, food, cook for you, cook for you, clean the house. As a renter wife. Then even in certain cases, you would fall in love with the woman, and then you keep the woman, or you say, okay, we're gonna be together for a year. Okay, I don't need you no more. I gave you your money. You're gonna move on to the next one. Then you get another hoe. Hosea, chapter 3. Well, Hosea 1, 2, and 3. That was a hoe. The Most High said, go and get this hoe and pay her some money, and she gonna lay with you. She gonna cook for you. She gonna be your housewife, but she gonna play you dirty. And they had children. I remember Captain Zarek, when we did a video on it, he said, no, that ain't what we're talking about. Then we did a video and we explained it, then he didn't say nothing. Okay? If we say something here at GMS, we're gonna back it up. We're gonna back, like the grape thing. You're still emotional. It was 2012. Here it is, that's 14 years later, and you guys still emotional. Because Captain said, and they rape little girls and shit. Like we act like we're going to brag about that shit. Are you kidding me? Anyway, let's get back into it. It says, in 1 hour is the judgment come through missiles, a missile system, interpreted as nuclear destruction. GMS frequently teaches that America will be destroyed quickly by thermonuclear missiles, primarily from Russia and its allies. That includes NATO and the EU nations that possess missiles. No rebuilding shall be found no more at all. GMS teaches America will be completely annihilated, never rebuilt. This distinguishes it from ancient Rome, which fell gradually and left ruin. Exactly. So you can't call this Rome because Rome didn't go down in an hour. Rome wasn't built in a day, and Rome didn't go down in an hour. It took years. Jake took over. 96 AD. Or CE, current era. The nuclear war doctrine, a major pillar of GMS teaching, Revelation 18, thermonuclear judgment, fire as little a nuclear fire, missiles correspond to prophecies in Isaiah 47, Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51, Obadiah, and many other scriptures. Isaiah 34, they could have put up in there. Isaiah 13, they could have put up in there. Revelation, they could have put up in there. Russia often identified as Magog, and scholars will agree that Magog are the Russians. Is the main instrument. This is they're going to lead the charge. And yesterday I did a video 2 days ago, or whatever, 2-3 days ago. I put in the information how many missiles does Russia possess, and it said 2,000, a little less than 2,000. Now I didn't go into how many warheads are on each and every missile. They said because that's how this place is going down in an hour. The only thing that can take 5,000 square miles in an hour is missiles. That's the only thing. Okay, it says this is one of the clearest points where GMS diverges from traditional Christianity. America as a spiritual Egypt and Sodom. GMS connects Revelation 18 with the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Right, of Revelation 11:8. They teach Egypt, house of bondage, slavery. Now the word Egyptus does not mean slavery, but it's synonymous. When you think about Egypt, modern Egypt, you think about the ancient Egyptians. So the word Egyptus does not translate into the word slavery. But the 7 used to teach that. Sodom, moral corruption. Yep. Egypt, Revelation 11:8, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Egypt is known for Israelites being born into slavery, growing as a nation into slavery, because remember there was not even 100 souls that went down there. Sodom meaning moral corruption. America unequally fulfills both. Exactly. Like I said, the Bible got to be written in code. And we're breaking the code for you. This is why we have no time to argue with Christians. First of all, you don't know the scriptures. Learn all the scriptures. Learn the whole book. Then you can come see me. You got the same two, 3 arguments. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, they're one thing. So when Jesus came down on earth, where was the Father? He was in the Son. So it was 2 spirits in the Son and the Jesus. And his name is Jesus. You know? They would call him Jesus back there. I said, I'm looking at the crazies, man. It's a Revelation 18. Revelation 18 is good news for Israelites. Exactly. The elected Israelites. Not no y'all Israelites, because y'all ain't going to make it. Unless you freaking repent. It marks, and before this happens, you know what I'm going to say. The MOTB has to be made manifest and issued to everybody on the planet Earth. And there's people that's not going to accept it. Some of you are going to die. So the end of Esau's rule. So when you talk about Babylon 18, you got to talk about Esau, which they don't want to acknowledge that they're the Edomites. The beginning of Israelite rulership under Yahushua. See, if this was talking about IUIC, they would say Christ. It wouldn't say Yahushua. IUIC does not believe in Yahweh and Yahushua. They believe in Jesus Christ, which is a white boy. They believe in Max von Sydow. Look up Max von Sydow and type in the greatest story ever told. They made this devil look like the white Jesus. How this differs from mainstream views, issues, Babylon, Rome, mainstream Christianity, Rome, symbolic, GMS, America specifically, timeline, past or symbolic, imminent future, right? Yep, in our lifetime. Could happen next year, could happen this year. Fire, symbolic or judgment, literal nuclear destruction, audience, church at large, Israelites only. There's a lot of information here. A lot of information. Important to know GMS interpretations, a theological and ideological, not academic, depend on Hebrew Israelites' identity claims, a strict futurist framework, meaning prophetic, apocalyptic, are not accepted by biblical scholarship. Well, they don't have to accept, we don't accept them. We don't acknowledge them or most Christian denominations. And like I said, neither the scholars or the Christians know, they can't break down the prophetic part of the Bible. The Jeremiahs, the Ezekiels, the Isaiahs, the Obadiahs, the Micahs, the Malachis, John on the Isle of Patmos. Understanding the GMS view does not require agreeing with it, but this is an accurate presentation what they teach. If you want, I can also compare GMS to other Israelite camps on Revelation 18, break down specific verses the way GMS does, and analyze strengths and weaknesses of the GMS interpretation. Just tell me how deep you want it to go. So now let's do this. Where's the Bible at? So I'm gonna let it go ahead and play. Fair use, fair use, fair use. King James narrated.
Chapter 18. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
Now, High Priest Ariah, when he broke it down, he said that the first verse is talking about when Esau came to America and took down the Gad and went down to South America. And he's talking about that. What John saw was, he saw the destruction, he saw the fire, it burnt the south out, all the fuel was burnt out, so the fire subsided. I guess you can use that. You can use that for the flood, but for the fire too, subsided. The smoke cleared, and he saw a clear day. He was looking down on Babylon, and one time he saw it as a lake of fire. He saw it as a lake of fire. What is that? Revelation 19, Revelation 20. I can go to that. But then he saw it in Revelation 18. He saw it as this desert, this vast desert. So Ariel went off on that.
For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And
I gave you this whole thing. What made China rich? What made all these billionaires in China? Let me do this. Let me do this. Oh, the great leaps forward was they forced them into stop being. Well, you can read it. They forced them to stop being farmers, and you got to work in the factories, and you got to learn the technical stuff. Let me ask this question. Let me do this, because I'm going to come back and read this. So the Boxers' revolution, the Westerners wanted to go in there and change everything up, and they were fighting against it, but eventually they lost. So anyway, let me do this here. How many billionaires are there in China? That's a lot of billionaires, man. China has around 450 to over 800 billionaires, depending on the source, but consistently ranks second globally after the U.S. The billionaires in the U.S. get it through. They don't lift the finger. They get it through. There's a lot of inside trading going on. There's a lot of little shit going on where people become multi-billionaires overnight. So look at that. There are almost 1,000 billionaires in China among the Chinese, and most of them, if you read their backstory, let me. What's this guy? Jack Ma. Let me see if I got the name right. Is it Jack Ma? Right, Jack Ma. Jack Ma's worth. Jack Ma. Let me do this. That's a funny looking Moabite right there. But he started off poor, I believe. I'm trying to find his. Okay, Jack Ma. Let's do this. I'll give you the company that he founded. Give me a second. What's the name of the goddamn company? Right, Alibaba. That was a big company that, you know, now you got what's this other group? It starts with an S. Somebody help me out. And also Temu, whatever. And I got a lot of stuff from I got a pretty good amount. Dirt fucking cheap, but great quality. I'm wearing some Temu shoes right now. They all beat up. I got these about 4 years ago. They still good. They slippers, you know. Anyway, let me see. I want to go to early life. Was he raised in a billionaire family? It said Ma was born in Hangzhou, whatever, Xinjiang province, whatever, on 10 September 64. He became interested in learning the English language as a young boy and began practicing it with English-speaking visitors who frequented the Hangzhou International Hotel. At the age of 12, Ma bought a pocket radio and began listening to English radio stations frequently. For 9 years, Ma, on his bicycle, so he used every day to work as a tour guide. So he was a nobody. He was a nobody. He had humble beginnings, and now he's a multi-billionaire. What is this guy worth? Let's come back over here. Jack Ma's net worth. Let's see what he's worth. He's worth over $51 billion. And he was a nobody. So most of your billionaires from China started off in humble beginnings. Thanks to America. Okay, so now they're calling the shots. At one time you had two world powers, United States and Russia. Now you got three: United States, Russia, and China. China and Russia are allied to each other. Russia and China is going to shoot, if China possesses ICBMs, which they do, look it up, they're going to shoot missiles on this country. That's what you call overkill. So now let's come on back.
The habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cave.
Ari would say, see, them white people are devils, so the devils came over here and they took the no. Those devils are not talking about your Edomites.
Of every unclean and hateful bird, for all nations.
Yeah, unclean and hateful bird is a homo, a mo. They might take this down because I said.
Have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are.
These various nations all adopted democracy, and democracy doesn't work. Look what we got in the top position of this country. What about the last guy? Democracy doesn't fucking work. Clinton called this an experiment. He called democracy an experiment.
Waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin.
Back then, they used to teach that, oh, you got to get us passports because we got to fly out. We got to fly on planes and get out of here and go down to South America before the missiles hit. And people used to actually go and get passports. At that time, I had a passport. Before I came to the truth, I had a passport. Passport, back then, it was good for 10 years.
And that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have...
That means when Yahushua comes with the angels, right behind him is second in command. Only to Yahushua is Michael the archangel, and the rest of the angels out there. They're gonna beam the elect up in Yahushua's ship, which is the size of a mountain, and the other angels are gonna destroy this place, and they're gonna destroy the armies, the fighter jets and so forth that come up and try to defend the country. They're gonna lose terribly. So there'll be no place found in heaven. That's in Revelation 12.
Reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquity.
And I'm going to say this. You guys have been in this thing for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or whatever, and you guys turn your back on the plow, that means you were never a part of this. Just like it says in 1 John 2. You were never a part of this. Because you wouldn't turn your back. For you to turn your back, I'm tired of doing this, and turn your back, that means you don't fear the Most High, which makes you an atheist. So you're going to catch what Esau's going to catch here in America, you're going to catch the same thing. You're going to catch that same fire. Moabites that's here. It's going to be a blessing for these Latin tribes to be pushed back in their countries because they don't have to taste the missiles. And every last one of you brothers that turned your back on this thing got kicked out for good reason, or you left, you're gonna take the chip. You weak ass camps, you're gonna take that chip. Unless you repent.
Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen.
Right. Let me back this up. Let's see if I can back this up. Okay, listen.
According to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment.
Now this is what this guy did. Nero, he had a party. It was the theme of the party was a Great Gatsby. There's a movie, there's a book that became a movie. It's about living a decadent lifestyle, and they were all dressed like they were from I forget what year it was, the 20s, 30s, or whatever. And they were all the people at that party. They were all Edomites, and they were all rich. You can see that they were all rich. You see a lot of old Edomite with a lot of younger women, Edomite women. The only Jakes in there were the butlers, and the servers. There was only Jakes in there. So he put it, the news played it on various news stations. He was throwing it in your face. Look at how we living. The 1%, as they call it.
And sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her.
And that fire is nuclear fire from the missiles.
The kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city.
So that's going to be breaking news all over the planet. Breaking news all over everything gonna stop. Breaking news, and if you go to Revelation 11, and I said this before, and will continue to say it, they're gonna have negotiations. They're gonna try to work things out, and at the end of the day, it's not gonna work out. My interpretation, this is only mine, this is not prophecy, that Russia's gonna destroy part of America. And then they're going to really try to have a negotiation, so they're going to realize that the Russians could take them out. Then the negotiation is going to fall through, and they say, look, open up, destroy this fucking place. If Nero's the guy to be there, or if it's another guy, they're going to make these nations that's going to shoot missiles on America so fucking angry that they're going to say, fuck it, press the goddamn button, destroy all these motherfuckers. That's why when you go to Isaiah 13, it said they're not going to regard women, children, and all that. They're not going to be concerned about gold and silver. Something's going to happen. If it's Nero that's going to be in that place when it happens, if it's him, the king of Babylon, if it's him, it could be somebody else. But if it's him, he gets people pissed the fuck off. He couldn't walk down the street by himself in certain places. The red hats don't like him no more. So if it's him, like I said, if he's the king of Babylon at that time, he's gonna do something to piss them off so much that they're gonna say, fuck you, hit that goddamn button. Hit the button.
Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and...
That's these other countries that export things to America. Number one on the list is America, is China.
Silk and scarlet and all thyine wood and all manner vessels of ivory and all manner vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments.
Cinnamon comes from China. You got two forms of cinnamon. The best cinnamon to get is was the Ceylon. I say Ceylon. Ceylon cinnamon, organic. Then you have regular cinnamon. Regular cinnamon that you buy that's made in China, which is garbage. But however, you can use both cinnamons. When I use cinnamon for medicinal purposes, and I have made a tincture from cinnamon. I used to get the sticks, but now I get the Ceylon. I believe it's called Ceylon cinnamon, organic. And you look up the properties as to what cinnamon can do for you.
And frankincense and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city?
That's talking about America. America is a great influencer. Everybody, all these different news companies around the world, they're always going to say something about America, always going to mention America. They're always going to relate things based upon what happens in America. The whole world was watching who's going to be the next president when this Trump was running against Kamala Harris.
They cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason.
Did not Jack Ma become... He had humble beginnings. Is not he a multi-billionaire? He's worth, they said, almost $52 billion.
Of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets.
Rejoice over her, thou heaven, ye holy apostles and prophets. Who's the number one man and number one men of the Most High on earth? The prophets, the apostles and the prophets.
For God hath avenged you on her. And the mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee.
Music comes out of the various genres of music, ragtime, rock and roll, early rock and roll, gospel music, which rock and roll, hip hop, R&B, soul, that all come from the church. These Jakes sung this beautiful music, these different rap, hip hop, that went around the world, because we the Israelites, we the salt of the earth.
O craftsman, of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived.
By thy sorceries, by their witchcraft. Everything that's why these multi-millionaires and these people, these famous actors that become millionaires, they have to go through a ritual, a demonic ritual. What Diddy was doing was nothing but a demonic ritual, man. Who the hell want to have sex for 4 days straight? That's a demonic ritual. That goes back to BLPR.
And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. Chapter 19.
Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. On to the next.